"Your brother is alive and waiting for you," said the humble child, and the woman wept with emotion. Rebecca Collins knelt before the cold headstone, tears streaming down her face as she clutched the flowers she had brought every week for 15 years. Her construction company had grown tremendously, but success had never filled the void her brother's departure left in her life. That's when she felt a small, calloused hand gently touch her shoulder. Raising her eyes, she saw a dark-haired boy of about 12, dressed simply with a serene gaze that belied his young age. "You come here every week, don't you?" the boy asked softly. Rebecca wiped her tears, surprised by his approach. "How do you know that?" "I work here at the cemetery helping Mr. Frank, the caretaker. I always see you on Thursdays crying in the same spot." The boy looked at the photo on the headstone and then back at Rebecca. "That man in the picture, was he important to you?" "He was my brother," Rebecca replied, her voice breaking. "He drowned in the Hudson River 15 years ago." The boy stayed silent for a few seconds, as if gathering courage to say something. "Mrs. Rebecca, your brother is alive and waiting for you." The words hit Rebecca like a punch to the gut. She stood abruptly, nearly losing her balance. "What did you say?" "Your brother Michael didn't drown that day. He's alive and lives in a neighborhood near the east side. I know him." Rebecca felt the world spin around her. The boy knew her brother's name, but this couldn't be true. "You're lying. Why would a child do something like this to me?" "My name is Jason, ma'am, and I don't lie about serious things. Your brother saved me from a fire 3 years ago. Since then, he's taken care of me and other kids who don't have families." Jason pulled a worn leather bracelet from his pocket with a small silver plate engraved MC 1982. Rebecca recognized it immediately. It was the bracelet she had given her brother for his 10th birthday, with his initials and the year he turned 10. "Where did you get this?" Rebecca took the bracelet with trembling hands. "He gave it to me when I was very sick. Said it had protective powers because it was a gift from someone very special." Rebecca fell to her knees again, this time not from sorrow but from shock. How was this possible? If he's alive, why did he never come home? Why did he let me suffer all these years? Jason knelt beside her with the maturity of someone who had endured much hardship. He lost part of his memory when he almost drowned. He remembers some things, but not others. And by the time he started remembering better, too much time had passed. He thought you had moved on and wouldn't want him back. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now, continuing. Rebecca rose slowly, still processing the information. 15 years of grief. 15 years visiting an empty grave while her brother was alive, caring for abandoned children. "Can you take me to him?" Jason hesitated. "He made me promise never to tell anyone about his past. But when I saw you crying here so many times, I couldn't stay silent anymore. I think you two need to meet. Please, Jason, I need to see him. He works at an auto repair shop in the South Bronx, but you have to promise me one thing. If he doesn't want to talk, you can't force him. He's suffered a lot too." Rebecca agreed, still not fully believing what was happening. How could Michael have been alive all these years? The next day, Rebecca canceled all her meetings and drove to the east side of New York City. The difference between her upscale neighborhood and that area was striking, but she was determined to find answers. Jason was waiting for her at the entrance to the neighborhood, just as they had agreed. "He's working at Mr. George's auto repair shop, but you'll have to be patient. He might get scared when he sees you." They walked through the narrow streets of the neighborhood. Rebecca observed the modest houses, children playing in the street, women chatting on the sidewalks. It was a world completely different from hers. "That's the shop over there." Jason pointed to a small shed where the sound of tools could be heard. Rebecca approached slowly and saw a man with his back turned, working under a car. He was thinner than she remembered, his hair graying, but she recognized those shoulders, that posture. "Michael," she called softly. The man stopped working immediately. Slowly he slid out from under the car and turned around. Rebecca saw the face she had loved so much, older now, with a few scars. but it was him. Michael stared at her for long seconds as if seeing a ghost. Rebecca? His voice came out hoarse, barely audible. It's me, Michael, it's me. They stood frozen, staring at each other, unsure how to react. 15 years of separation had created a chasm too wide to bridge easily. How did you find me? Jason told me. He said you've been alive all these years. Michael looked at the boy with a mix of gratitude and worry. Jason, I told you never to... I'm sorry, Michael, but she suffers too much. Every week she goes to the cemetery to cry for you. I couldn't stand seeing her like that anymore. Rebecca stepped closer, tears streaming down her face. Why, Michael? Why did you never come home? Michael lowered his head, clearly uncomfortable. Things aren't that simple, Rebecca. A lot happened. But we're siblings. I searched for you for months. I thought you drowned after that awful fight we had. I almost did. When I woke up in the hospital 3 days later, I couldn't remember things clearly. And by the time I started remembering, it was already too late. Too late how? I'm your sister. Michael glanced around, noticing that some people were already watching their conversation. Let's talk somewhere else. Not here. They walked to a small nearby square. Jason followed them, feeling responsible for having brought them together. Rebecca, when I fell into the river that day, I hit my head on a rock. I was unconscious for 3 days. When I woke up, I remembered some things, but others were still fuzzy. Why didn't you come to me when you recovered? Because by the time my memory started coming back, more than a year had passed, and I found out things that... Michael stopped speaking, as if the words were too painful. What things, Michael? Talk to me. Rebecca, our fight that day wasn't about nothing. Do you remember why we argued? Rebecca strained to recall. The argument had been so intense, so painful, that she had tried not to dwell on the details. We fought over Dad's company. You said I was being too ambitious, that money was changing me. And you said I was a failure, that I'd never be able to manage anything, that Dad was right to leave everything to you. The words came back to Rebecca like knife wounds. She had said terrible things that day, driven by anger and the pressure of taking over the family business. Michael, I was upset. I didn't mean what I said. You also said it would be better if I disappeared from your life. Rebecca's heart clenched. She had said that in the heat of her rage. So when I finally remembered everything, I thought maybe you were relieved I was gone, that you could finally run the company without interference. How could you think that? I searched for you desperately. I spent months without sleeping, blaming myself for our fight. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing, Jason watched the conversation in silence, sensing the pain of the two siblings. Besides, Michael continued, when I fully recovered, I had already started working here in the neighborhood. I met these abandoned children, began helping them, and discovered a purpose I'd never had before. What purpose? Jason isn't the only one I help. There are 7 other kids who are on the streets, with no family. They depend on me now. Rebecca looked at Jason, who nodded in confirmation. He gave us a family, Mrs. Collins. Before meeting Michael, I slept on the streets and went hungry. Now I have a place to live, food every day, and even go to school. Did you start an orphanage? It's not official. Just a big house I managed to rent with my job. The kids stay there, I take care of them, and teach basic education to those who can't get into school. Rebecca was impressed. Her brother had found a calling she never imagined he had. But that doesn't explain why you never tried to contact me once you fully recovered. Michael stayed silent for a long time. Because I did try, Rebecca. Twice. What do you mean? The first time was about 10 years ago. I went to your company, but when I got there, I saw you arriving in a luxury car talking on the phone about million-dollar deals. You seemed so different, so far from the person I knew. You saw me and didn't speak to me. You looked so successful, so confident. I thought my return would only disrupt your life. And the second time, 5 years ago, I got your home address. I went there one night, but when I arrived, I saw you hosting a big party with lots of people. I overheard conversations about your business, about how much money you were making, and I thought, she doesn't need me anymore." Rebecca felt anger rising inside her. "You decided on your own that I didn't need you, without even asking me?" "Rebecca, I've changed a lot over the years too. I'm not that kid who fought with you over the company anymore. I found peace here, taking care of these children. Maybe it's better this way." "Better for who? For you or for me?" The argument was heating up again, and Jason stood up. "Please, don't fight again. You've both suffered too long being apart." Rebecca took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. "Michael, do you have any idea what my life has been like these past 15 years? Do you think money made up for your absence?" "I thought so. You always wanted more responsibility in the company." "I was a 25-year-old woman. I was insecure, afraid I couldn't handle everything. When I fought with you, I was taking out my nerves on you." Michael looked at her closely for the first time since they'd reunited. "But you did it. The company grew a lot, from what I've heard." "I did. But do you know the cost? 15 years without family. I never married, never had children, because every time someone tried to get close, I thought of you and our fight. I was afraid of hurting the people I loved." "Rebecca, you were my only family, Michael. Dad was already gone, Mom too. When I thought I lost you, I lost everything that mattered." Jason stepped closer to them. "You've both wasted too much time fighting over nonsense. Michael talks about you all the time. When he thinks no one's looking, he stares at an old photo in his room." "What photo?" Rebecca asked. "A picture of you two as kids." He looks at it and gets sad. Michael turned red, embarrassed. "Jason, you shouldn't say these things." "Of course I should. She needs to know he misses her too." Rebecca felt her heart tighten. "Did you keep a photo of us?" "It's the only thing left from my past. It was in my pocket when I fell into the river." Rebecca took her purse and pulled out a wallet. From inside, she removed the same photo, just more worn out. "I have the same photo too. I've carried it with me for 15 years. The two siblings looked at each other, finally realizing how much they still cared for one another. "Rebecca, I'm sorry for running away instead of having the courage to talk to you. And I'm sorry for the horrible things I said that day. I wasn't thinking about what I was saying." Jason smiled, happy to see they were finally talking without arguing. "Now you can be together again." But Rebecca noticed Michael still seemed hesitant. "What's wrong? Is something still bothering you?" "Rebecca, I've changed a lot. My life is simple now. I take care of these kids, work at the auto repair shop, and earn little money. I don't know if I could go back to living in your world." "Who said you have to go back to my world? Maybe I need to get to know yours." Michael looked at her, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I want to meet these kids you take care of. I want to understand how you live here. You'd really do that. Michael, in these 15 years, I've built a big company, but I haven't built a life. Maybe it's time to learn how to do both." Jason clapped his hands excitedly. "Does that mean you can help us? We don't have enough money to fix the roof, and there are 3 more kids who want to live with us." Rebecca looked at the boy and then at Michael. "Would you let me help?" "I don't know if mixing your life with ours is a good idea." "Why not?" "Because it's different here, Rebecca. It's a simple life, no luxuries, full of real problems. You're used to another standard." "Let me find that out for myself. Take me to meet the kids." Michael reluctantly agreed, and the 3 walked to a modest 3-bedroom house at the end of the street. When they entered, Rebecca saw 7 children of different ages, all busy with some activity. "Everyone, this is my sister Rebecca," Michael announced. The children stopped what they were doing and greeted her shyly. Rebecca was moved to see how well cared for and happy they seemed, despite the simplicity of the place. A girl about 8 years old approached. "Are you really Uncle Michael's sister? He said he didn't have family." "I am, sweetheart. What's your name?" "My name is Emily. Uncle Michael found me when I was lost downtown. My mom had left me alone." Rebecca's heart ached hearing the girl's story. "And do you like living here now?" "I love it. Uncle Michael is the best dad in the world, even if he's not my real dad." Rebecca looked at Michael, who was clearly touched by the girl's words. "How old are you, Emily?" "I'm 8. I already know how to read and write because Uncle Michael taught me." Rebecca spent the rest of the afternoon getting to know each of the children and their stories. All of them had faced abandonment or mistreatment before coming there. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. When night fell, Rebecca helped Michael prepare dinner for the kids. It was a completely new experience for her, used to eating at expensive restaurants or ordering takeout. "How do you manage to support all this by yourself?" she asked while chopping vegetables. "It's not easy. I work at the auto repair shop during the day and take odd jobs at night. The older kids help take care of the younger ones. And when they get sick. There's a health clinic nearby. Dr. Sarah is really good. She always helps when I need it." Rebecca realized her brother had built a support network in the neighborhood. He was respected and loved by everyone. After dinner, while the kids watched TV, Rebecca and Michael stepped outside to talk in the small backyard of the house. "Michael, I want to help you financially." "Rebecca, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. You've taken care of 8 kids all by yourself for years. That's a job for several adults. But I don't want you to think I'm getting close to you out of interest. You cared for those children without expecting anything in return. That shows the kind of person you've become." Michael fell silent, watching Jason play with the other kids in the living room. "You know, Rebecca, when I woke up after that accident, I was so angry. Angry at you, angry at myself, angry at life. And how did that change? Jason was the first child I found. He was starving, sleeping on a storefront awning. When I started taking care of him, I realized he needed me more than I needed my anger." Rebecca understood that her brother had found a purpose greater than the family fights of the past. "You've become a better person than I am, Michael." "That's not true. You've grown too. You built a big company, created jobs, helped the economy. But I don't help anyone directly the way you help these kids. Then maybe we can do it together now." Rebecca smiled, feeling for the first time in 15 years that she had a real family. In the following days, Rebecca began visiting the house regularly. She brought school supplies for the kids, medicine for the first aid stock, and started looking into the possibility of renovating the house. But not everything went smoothly. On her second week of visits, Rebecca arrived to find Michael deeply worried. "What happened?" "The landlord wants to raise the rent by 50%. I won't be able to pay." "How much is he asking?" Michael told her the amount, which to Rebecca was trivial, but for him, it was nearly his entire salary. "I'll cover the difference." "Rebecca, I don't want you solving all our problems with money." "Why not?" "I have it, and you need it. It's not charity, it's help between siblings. But what if you get tired of this life and leave? The kids will get used to a standard I can't maintain on my own." Rebecca realized Michael still didn't fully trust her. "You think I'll abandon you?" "I don't know, Rebecca. You have a very different life from ours. Then I'll prove to you I won't abandon you." The next day, Rebecca returned with a proposal. "Michael, what if we bought a house for the kids?" "With what money?" "Mine. But the house will also be in your name. That way you'll never have to worry about rent again." Michael was silent for a long time. "Rebecca, that's a lot of money. Not for me. And even if it were, it's worth it to secure these kids' future." Jason, who had been listening, jumped for joy. "Does that mean we'll never have to move again?" "Never again," Rebecca confirmed, smiling. But when they started looking for houses in the area, they ran into a problem. Prices were sky high due to real estate speculation, and the available homes were too small for 8 kids. "What if we built a house?" Rebecca suggested. "Building from scratch will take too long," Michael considered. "Not if I speed things up. My company can handle the construction." That's when Rebecca had an even bigger idea. "Michael, what if it wasn't just a house? What if it was a small institution?" "What do you mean?" "A proper place for abandoned kids, with the right structure, trained staff, everything legal." Michael was excited, but also concerned. That would be amazing, but it'd also be a lot more complicated. "Complicated how?" Having an official institution means dealing with bureaucracy, inspections, strict rules. Rebecca realized her brother was afraid of losing the freedom to care for the children his way. We can do both. Keep your home as it is and create the institution as a separate project. But why two things? Because your home is special, Michael. Here, the children have the warmth of a family. In a big institution, they'd have professional care, but maybe not the same love. Michael agreed it made sense. In the following weeks, Rebecca began working on two projects, buying a bigger house for Michael and the children, and planning a small official institution in the neighborhood. But during this process, she discovered something that deeply worried her. Jason started acting strangely, avoiding conversations about the past, and getting nervous whenever someone mentioned official documents. "Jason, do you have a birth certificate?" Rebecca asked one day. The boy visibly tensed. "Why do you want to know?" "Because to enroll you in a better school, you'll need documents." "I don't need a better school, the one here is fine." Rebecca sensed something was wrong but decided not to push further. That night, she shared her concerns with Michael. "Michael, are you sure you know Jason's whole story?" "Why are you asking?" "He gets nervous when official documents come up, and when I ask about his family, he changes the subject." Michael grew thoughtful. "When I found him, he said he was an orphan, that he'd lived on the streets for years. I never questioned it much. He was just a scared kid. But now he's older, more confident. Maybe it's time to learn the truth." "What if the truth is bad? What if he ran from something dangerous?" "Then we'll help him through it. But we can't leave this unresolved forever." Rebecca was right, but talking to Jason would be harder than they imagined. The next day, Rebecca and Michael called him for a private conversation. "Jason, you can trust us. We want to know your real story." The boy stayed silent for a long time. "Will you send me away if I tell you?" "Never," Michael assured. "You're part of our family now." Jason took a deep breath and began. "My real name isn't Jason. It's Ethan Jason Miller." "Why did you change it?" "Because I was running away. My mother sold me to strangers when she needed drug money." Rebecca's heart ached hearing this. "And your father?" "Never met him. When I turned 10, I ran away. That's when Uncle Michael found me." Michael was visibly moved. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because I was afraid she'd come back for me, and because I was ashamed." "Jason, Ethan, you have nothing to be ashamed of. You were the victim of something terrible." Rebecca knelt beside the boy. "Jason, do you want us to try finding your mother?" "No," he answered quickly. "She never really wanted me. Here, I'm happy. I have a family who loves me." "Then let's make it official. We'll get your documents, put you legally under Michael's care." "Is that possible?" "We'll make it possible," Rebecca promised. It was then Rebecca realized how much her life had changed in just weeks. Before, her worries were business meetings and million-dollar contracts. Now she was focused on a child's paperwork and securing his future. But Jason's revelation brought a new concern. If he had escaped abuse, other children in the house might have similar pasts. "Michael, do you know all the children's stories?" "I know the basics about each one. Why?" "Maybe it's important to know all the details. If any of them are in an irregular situation, we need to resolve it before making anything official." Over the following days, Michael and Rebecca spoke individually with each child. They discovered that 3 of them had no documents at all, 2 had run away from abusive homes, and 1 was being sought by relatives who had mistreated her. "This is more complicated than we imagined," Rebecca said. "Maybe it's better to leave things as they are, without making it official." "No, Michael. This way, they'll never have access to proper healthcare, quality education, or future prospects. But if we interfere, we might lose some of them." Rebecca understood the dilemma. Legalizing the situation could help the children, but it could also separate them. That's when she had an idea. "What if we hired a lawyer specialized in child rights, someone who can guide us on the best way to proceed?" "That's going to cost a lot of money." "Let me worry about that." Rebecca hired Dr. Jennifer Wilson, a respected lawyer who worked with adoption and guardianship cases. When she learned about the situation, she was impressed. "You've done extraordinary social work here, but it's completely informal. That's dangerous for both the children and you." "What would the solution be?" Michael asked. "We have several options. You could become an official foster family, set up a small transitional home, or work with Child Protective Services to find adoptive families for some of the children." "We don't want to separate the children," Rebecca said. "I understand the sentiment, but maybe not all the children need to stay together forever. Some might benefit from permanent adoptive families." It was a difficult decision. Rebecca and Michael realized they'd have to talk to each child individually to understand what they wanted. The first one they consulted was Emily, the 8-year-old girl. "Emily, would you like to have a mother and father just for yourself?" The girl thought for a while. "I already have Uncle Michael as a father, and now I have Aunt Rebecca too. Why would I need others?" "Because maybe other parents could give you things we can't." "Like what?" Rebecca realized she didn't have a good answer for that question. "Are you happy here?" "I am. Here I have siblings, even if we're not blood related. In a new family, I'd be an only child." The conversation with Emily made Rebecca rethink the idea of separating the children. "Michael, maybe Dr. Jennifer is wrong. Maybe keeping the children together really is the best option. But how do we do that legally? Let's look into the possibility of you becoming the official guardian for all of them. Is that possible? We'll find out." Dr. Jennifer explained that it would be a long and complex process, but not impossible. Michael would have to undergo a series of psychological and social evaluations. The house would have to meet required standards, and you'd have to prove financial stability to support 8 children. How long would it take? Between 1 and 2 years if everything goes well. It was a long time, but Rebecca was willing to wait. Over the following months, she divided her time between her company and the neighborhood. She renovated Michael's house, hired private tutors for the children, and started the legal processes to regularize each of their situations. But not everything was going smoothly. Rebecca began to notice that some people in the neighborhood viewed her with suspicion. "Why is that rich woman always here?" she overheard a neighbor say. "She must want something. Rich people don't do anything for free." The comments bothered Rebecca, but she tried to ignore them. It was Jason who alerted her to a bigger problem. "Aunt Rebecca, there's a strange person asking questions about you here in the neighborhood." "What kind of questions?" "Wondering why you come here, if you're giving money to Uncle Michael, things like that." Rebecca grew worried. Who could be investigating her activities in the neighborhood? The answer came a few days later, when a man in a suit showed up at Michael's house. "Good afternoon. My name is Robert Johnson. I'm a social worker with the city. We received a complaint that there are children living under irregular conditions at this address." Rebecca felt her heart race. Someone had reported Michael. "The children are well cared for," Michael said. "I'm sure they are, but I need to conduct an official inspection. It's protocol." Robert Johnson did a thorough inspection of the house and spoke with each child individually. In the end, he met with Rebecca and Michael. "The situation here is complex. The children are clearly well cared for and happy, but there's no official documentation regarding their guardianship." "We're working on that," Rebecca explained. "How much time do you have?" "What do you mean?" "I need to submit a report on this situation. If there's no significant progress in the next 3 months, I'll have to recommend the children be moved to official shelters until everything is settled." It was a tight deadline. Rebecca knew legal processes would take much longer. "Is there any way to get more time?" "Only if you can get a favorable recommendation from Child Protective Services and prove you've already started the guardianship process." That night, Rebecca barely slept. She had found her family again, but she might lose them because of bureaucracy. "Michael, we'll figure this out in time." "What if we don't? What if they take the kids?" "They won't take them. I'll do whatever it takes." Rebecca spent the next few days in meetings with lawyers, social workers, and Child Protective Services staff. She found that having money helped speed up some processes, but it didn't solve everything. The biggest problem was that some children didn't even have birth certificates, making it impossible to start any guardianship process. "How can a child not have a birth certificate?" Rebecca asked Dr. Jennifer. "It happens more than you think." Mothers afraid to go to hospitals, unregistered home births, families completely outside the system. And how do we fix it? We have to file for a delayed birth certificate for each child. It's a process that could take months. Rebecca realized she wouldn't be able to resolve everything in 3 months. She needed a different strategy. That's when she remembered an old friend from college who had become a journalist. "Ashley, I need your help." "Hey Rebecca, long time. What do you need?" "I want you to write a story about the social work my brother does here on the East Side." "What kind of social work?" Rebecca explained the whole situation. Ashley was intrigued. "That's an incredible story, Rebecca. A wealthy businesswoman who discovers her brother is alive and raising abandoned children. It'll make a moving piece. But it needs to focus on the quality of his work, the love he has for the kids." "Of course. When can I meet them?" A week later, Ashley arrived in the neighborhood with a photographer. She spoke with Michael, the children and neighbors, and was truly impressed. "Rebecca, your brother is a hero. What he's doing here is extraordinary. So, you'll write the story?" "I'll write the best story of my career." The article was published in a major magazine and had a huge impact. Suddenly, many people knew about Michael's story and the children. With the positive response, Rebecca managed to schedule a meeting with the city's social services secretary. "Dr. Richard, the work my brother is doing is exactly what the city needs. Why don't we support it officially instead of creating obstacles?" "Mrs. Collins, I understand your point, but there are protocols that must be followed. What if we created a pilot project, a partnership between private initiative and public power?" The idea intrigued the secretary. They spent hours discussing possibilities. "If you're willing to follow all safety protocols and allow regular supervision, we can explore a way to formalize the work." It was exactly what Rebecca had been hoping for. In the following months, Rebecca worked tirelessly to adapt the home to official requirements. She installed security systems, hired a nutritionist to plan the children's meals, and brought in a psychologist to monitor each child's emotional development. Michael, at first, felt uncomfortable with so much formalization. "Rebecca, this is getting too complicated. Before it was just me taking care of the kids. But now you have professional support, and the children have access to things you couldn't provide alone." "That's true, but I feel like I'm losing control of the situation." Rebecca understood her brother's concern. "Michael, you're not losing anything. You're still the most important person in these children's lives. The rest is just support structure." Gradually, Michael got used to the changes. He realized that having a professional team really helped, and that he could focus on what he did best, giving the children love and guidance. 6 months after the first visit from the social worker, Robert Johnson returned for a new inspection. "I can't believe the transformation of this place," he said. "You've created an exemplary structure." "Does that mean the children can stay?" "Not only can they, but they should. You've created a model other neighborhoods should follow." Rebecca felt immense joy. They had succeeded. But the biggest surprise was yet to come. The following week, Rebecca received a call from a television producer. "Mrs. Collins, we'd like to make a documentary about your story and your brothers." "A documentary? Your story is inspiring. A businessman who disappears and becomes a caregiver for children, a sister who finds him and decides to change her life to help him." Rebecca discussed the proposal with Michael. "Do you want to be part of this? If it helps other kids like ours, yes." The documentary aired on television and moved millions of people. Rebecca and Michael received hundreds of messages of support and offers of help. But the most important consequence was something else. Several families reached out to Rebecca wanting to adopt children from official shelters. "Rebecca, what if we created a network?" Michael suggested. "What kind of network?" "A network of families who want to adopt, and a network of children who need families. We could help connect the right people." It was a brilliant idea. Rebecca decided to create a foundation focused on facilitating adoptions and supporting foster families. A year after their reunion at the cemetery, Rebecca was living a completely different life. She still managed her company, but had delegated much of the responsibility to dedicate herself to social work. "Do you regret anything?" Michael asked one day as they watched the children playing in the backyard. I regret losing 15 years without you, but if I hadn't lost those years, maybe you wouldn't have found your calling, and I wouldn't have discovered my life was empty. So maybe everything happened at the right time. Maybe so. Jason approached the two. Uncle Michael, Aunt Rebecca, are you going to stay together forever now? Forever, they answered in unison. Then I have a proposal, Jason said with a mischievous smile. What proposal? How about you move in here with us, then we'd be a real family. Rebecca looked at Michael and saw he was smiling. You know, Jason, I think that's an excellent idea. 2 years later, Rebecca had sold her luxury apartment and built a bigger house in the neighborhood where they all lived together. She kept an office downtown, but her life was now firmly on the east side. The original 8 kids had grown up, and some were already finishing high school. 3 new children had arrived over the years, and one of the older girls had decided to study education to follow in Michael's footsteps. Rebecca, have you ever stopped to think about how much our lives have changed? Michael asked one night as they reviewed the younger kids' homework. I think about it every day, and you know what amazes me the most? What? That 15 years ago, we fought because we thought we were too different to get along, and now we've realized we're too alike to live apart. How so? You always wanted to take care of people, and I always wanted to build things. Now we're doing both together. Jason, now 15, and something of an older brother to the younger kids, overheard the conversation. You know what I think is the coolest part of this whole story? What, Jason? That you two found each other again in the cemetery, a place of sadness, but built a life full of joy. Rebecca smiled. Jason always had wise insights for his age. And you know what else, Jason? It all started because you had the courage to talk to a stranger at the cemetery. It wasn't courage, Aunt Rebecca, it was necessity. I saw you crying every week, and I knew Uncle Michael was hurting too. You needed each other. Michael was moved by the boy's words. Jason, you saved our family. No, Uncle Michael, you saved us. I just helped you find each other. That night, after all the kids were asleep, Rebecca and Michael sat on the porch to talk, as they did every evening. Michael, there's something I've always wanted to ask you but never had the courage to. What is it? When you were recovering from the accident, did you remember our fight? I did. It was one of the first things that came back to me. And how did it make you feel? Angry at first, then sad, and finally, I missed you. Missed me? I missed the bond we had as kids, before we grew up and started fighting over silly things. Rebecca realized they had recovered much more than a family relationship. They had reclaimed a deep friendship. Rebecca, can I ask you something now? Of course. Why did you never get married all these years? She was silent for a moment. Because I always felt incomplete. I thought it was because of work, because of the company's responsibilities. But it was because I didn't have a family. And now? Now I feel complete. I have you, I have the kids, I have a purpose beyond making money. But what about a boyfriend? Don't you miss that? Rebecca laughed. Michael, I'm 42 and raising 8 kids. When would I even have time to date? If the right person comes along, we'll make it work. What about you? Never thought about getting married? A few times, but it always felt unfair. How could I explain to a woman that my life is dedicated to kids who aren't my own? The right woman would understand and want to be part of it. Maybe. But for now, I'm happy like this. Rebecca agreed. They were happy just as they were. 3 years after their reunion, Rebecca got a call that would change their lives once again. Mrs. Collins, this is the Department of Education. We'd like to propose a partnership. What kind of partnership? We want your methodology to be applied in other neighborhoods. Would you be willing to train other educators? It was an opportunity to expand the work they were doing. Rebecca discussed it with Michael and the older kids. Everyone, what do you think about teaching others to do what we do here? Jason, now 16, was the first to respond. I think it's our responsibility. We got a second chance in life. Now it's time to give that chance to other kids. Emily, who was 11, also got excited. Can I help teach the new kids? I know what it's like to arrive here scared and not knowing anyone. Rebecca realized the children had embraced the spirit of solidarity Michael always carried. Then let's do it. Let's teach others how to care for kids the way you cared for us. The expansion project was a success. In 2 years, Rebecca and Michael had trained educators in 15 different neighborhoods. Hundreds of children benefited. But success also brought new challenges. Rebecca started receiving invitations to speak in other states, partnership offers from big companies, and requests to write books about her experience. Michael, I'm worried. I don't want success to make us lose focus. What's our focus? The kids, our family. Then let's focus on that. Everything else is a consequence. Rebecca decided to accept only the invitations that could truly help more children and decline those meant just to bring visibility to their work. It was around this time that something deeply moving happened to the whole family. Emily, now 12, was approached by an aunt she never knew existed. Emily, I'm your mother's sister. I heard you were here and came to meet you. The girl was confused and scared. My mother abandoned me. Why are you only showing up now? Because I only just found out where you were. Your mother never told me she had a daughter. Rebecca and Michael listened, concerned about what this might mean. Emily, if you want, you can live with me. I'm your blood family. The girl looked at Rebecca and Michael, then back at her aunt. Your blood family, but they're heart family. And heart family is stronger. But wouldn't you like to have a mother of your own? I have a mother. Aunt Rebecca may not have given birth to me, but she gave me a new life. Rebecca was moved to hear those words. Emily, if you want to get to know your aunt better, you can visit her whenever you like, but your home will always be here. Emily's aunt understood the girl had found a family who loved her and decided not to push for her to move. She began visiting Emily regularly and gradually became another part of the girl's support network. Situations like this repeated with other children over the years. Some discovered relatives they never knew existed, others received adoption offers from traditional families. But most chose to stay. The family Rebecca and Michael had built was too strong to be easily broken. On the 5th anniversary of their reunion, Rebecca organized a celebration in the neighborhood. Not only the kids from their home came, but all the families who had benefited from their projects. Everyone, Rebecca said into the microphone, 5 years ago I visited a cemetery every week, crying for someone I thought was lost forever. The crowd listened in silence. Today, I'm here celebrating with over 200 people who've become my extended family. Applause. All of this started because a 12-year-old boy had the courage to speak a hard truth. Rebecca called Jason to the stage. Jason, today you're 17 and finishing high school. What do you plan to do with your life? I want to study psychology to help other kids who've been through what I've been through. More applause. And what advice would you give to other children going through hard times? Jason took the microphone. Family isn't just about sharing the same blood. Family is who stands by you in tough times and celebrates your victories. If you weren't born into a good family, you can find one or build a new one. The audience was moved. And for the adults, what would your advice be? That it's never too late to start over. Uncle Michael and Aunt Rebecca reunited after 15 years and built something beautiful. If they could do it, anyone can. Rebecca stepped onto the stage and hugged Jason. Jason, do you know none of this would have happened without you? I know, Aunt Rebecca, but I also know if Uncle Michael hadn't taken me in when I needed it, I wouldn't be here to tell this story. Michael joined them on stage. Everyone, when I fell into that river 20 years ago, I thought my life was over. Today, I know it was just beginning. The celebration lasted late into the night. When everyone had left, Rebecca, Michael, and the kids gathered in the living room to talk about the evening. How do you feel seeing so many people happy because of what we do here? Rebecca asked. I feel proud, said Emily. I feel important, said Ethan, one of the boys who had arrived more recently. And you, Michael? I feel fulfilled, like I finally understood my purpose in life. What was it? Taking care of people. It's always been that way since I was a kid. Remember how I kept bringing hurt animals home? Rebecca laughed at the memory. That's true. Mom would get mad because you'd always show up with injured cats and dogs. So maybe I always knew my path. I just took a while to find it. Jason, nearly asleep on the couch, murmured, "The important thing is, you found it. And you found us too." Rebecca looked around the room at her gathered family and felt like the happiest person in the world. 6 years after the reunion, Rebecca received an award from the city for her social work in the community. During her acceptance speech, she summarized their journey. 6 years ago, I was a financially successful businesswoman, but completely broken emotionally. I visited a cemetery every week, crying for someone I thought I'd lost forever. The audience hung on every word. A humble boy tapped me on the shoulder and said the words that changed my life. "Your brother is alive and waiting for you." Rebecca paused, emotional. Today, 6 years later, I can say I found so much more than my brother. I found a family, a purpose, and happiness. Warm applause followed. But the most important lesson I learned is that sometimes the simplest people have the deepest answers. Jason was just a 12-year-old boy, but he had the wisdom and courage to reunite a family. She called Jason, now 18 and about to start college, to join her. "Jason, when you tapped my shoulder that day at the cemetery, did you imagine it would lead to all this?" "No, Aunt Rebecca. I just wanted you to stop crying." The audience laughed and teared up. "And today, how do you feel seeing everything we've built?" "I feel like every tear you shed at that cemetery was worth it, because they watered the ground where our family bloomed." Rebecca was moved by the poetic answer from the boy who had grown into a wise young man. "Jason, do you have plans for the future?" "I do. I want to study psychology to better understand how to help kids who've been through trauma. And I want to use our story as proof that any hardship can be overcome with love and support." "And where do you plan to live during college?" "Here at home, with you. My family is here." The answer moved the entire audience. After the ceremony, Rebecca, Michael, and Jason went home together. "Michael, have you ever stopped to think where we'd be today if we hadn't fought that day 20 years ago?" "I've thought about it many times. I'd probably be a mediocre businessman, and you'd be a successful but unhappy businesswoman. And where would these kids be? On the streets, in inadequate shelters, or worse?" Jason joined the conversation. "Then maybe that fight was necessary. Sometimes you have to get lost to find yourself." "Jason's philosophy," Rebecca laughed. "You should write a book." "Maybe I will. An autobiography. How a street kid became the bridge to reunite a family." "That would be an interesting book," Michael agreed. "And it would sell well," Rebecca added. "Everyone wants to believe in second chances." When they got home, the other kids were waiting to hear how the ceremony had gone. "How was it? Were you famous?" asked Emily, now 15. "We were important," Rebecca corrected, "which is different from being famous." "What's the difference?" "But being famous means a lot of people know you. Being important means you make a difference in people's lives." "Then you're important and famous," Ethan said. "Maybe," Rebecca laughed, "but what matters is that we're happy." That night, as they always did, Rebecca and Michael sat on the porch to talk before bed. "Rebecca, have you ever thought about writing a book telling our story?" "I have. But I think our story isn't over yet. Maybe in a few years." "How do you see our story 10 years from now?" "I see Jason with a degree in psychology, working with us. Emily might study education too. The other kids grown up, some starting their own families but always staying connected to us. And us? Older, wiser, maybe taking care of honorary grandchildren the kids bring to meet their heart grandparents." Michael smiled. "Sounds like a beautiful future." "It's a possible future. It just depends on us continuing to make the right choices." "What are the right choices?" "Always choosing love over pride. Always choosing unity over separation. Always choosing to help instead of judge. Simple choices, but hard to make. That's why family is important, to remind us of the way when we're lost." Jason appeared on the porch holding a notebook. "Sorry to interrupt, but I'm writing some memories and wanted to confirm a date." "What date?" "The day we met at the cemetery." "Was it a Thursday, March 15th, 6 years ago?" "It was," Rebecca confirmed. "Why are you writing about it?" "Because I want to record our story. so other families know it's possible to find each other even after being lost for so long. What else are you writing? About every kid who's come through here, how they arrived and how they left, the ones who stayed and the ones who took different paths. Rebecca was curious. Can I read it? Jason hesitated. It's not ready yet, but when it is, you'll be the first to read it. We're looking forward to it, Michael said. 6 months later, Jason presented his completed work. It was a detailed account of how a family had formed from loss and missed connections. Jason, this isn't just an account, it's a book, Rebecca said after reading. Do you think it's worth publishing? Absolutely. Other people need to know stories like ours are possible. Then let's publish it together. I'll write, you'll edit, and we'll split the royalties. We don't want royalties, Michael said. If the book makes any money, it goes to the fund we set up to help other families. I agree. Rebecca supported. The book was published the following year and became a bestseller. More important than the commercial success was the emotional impact it had. Rebecca and Michael began receiving letters from people who had read the book and felt inspired to restart their own lives. One letter in particular deeply moved Rebecca. Dear Mrs. Rebecca, my name is Linda, I'm 62 years old. I read Jason's book about you and cried so much. 10 years ago, I fought with my daughter over something silly, and we haven't spoken since. After reading your story, I decided to reach out to her. We reconciled last week, and she introduced me to my grandchildren, whom I'd never met. Thank you for teaching me. It's never too late to start over. Michael, look at this. Rebecca showed him the letter. Our story is helping others reconcile. That's what we always wanted, isn't it? In the following years, Rebecca and Michael received hundreds of similar letters. People who reconciled with family, people who decided to adopt children, people who changed careers to dedicate themselves to social work. Jason, do you realize the impact our book is having? I do, Aunt Rebecca, but I think the impact isn't from the book, it's from our real story. The book just helps people learn about it. You're right. People relate because they know it's true. And because they know if we could do it, they can too. 10 years after their first meeting at the cemetery, Rebecca returned to the place where it all began, but this time she wasn't crying. She was bringing flowers to give thanks. Thank you, she said softly, looking at the empty headstone. Thank you for bringing me here that day. If I hadn't come to mourn Michael, Jason would never have found me. It was a Thursday morning, the same day of the week Jason had approached her a decade earlier. Do you still come here every Thursday? A familiar voice asked behind her. Rebecca turned and saw Jason, now a 22-year-old man with a degree in psychology and working with at-risk children. Jason, what are you doing here? I came to visit the place where our family began. They hugged. Do you remember exactly what you said that day? I remember perfectly. I said, your brother is alive and waiting for you. And you were sure I'd believe you. I wasn't sure of anything. I just knew I had to try. And if I hadn't believed you, then I'd have missed the chance to have the best family in the world. Rebecca was moved. Jason, you know you've changed so many lives, right? I just did what felt right in that moment, and you're still doing what feels right. I heard you're helping 3 families reunite through your work. It's what I learned from you, that it's worth fighting for love, even when it seems impossible. They stood in silence for a few minutes, each lost in thought. Rebecca, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Do you still feel like something's missing in your life? Rebecca thought for a long time. I miss the lost time. I wish I had more years ahead to spend with all of you. But are you happy? Completely happy. And you? I am too. And you know why? Why? Because I found my purpose in life. I want to spend the rest of my days helping families reunite, like I helped you. That's a beautiful purpose, Jason. It's a purpose I learned from you. As they left the cemetery, Rebecca and Jason walked together to the neighborhood where everything had changed. The house was now much bigger, with space for 15 children. Michael was in the backyard playing with the younger ones, while the older ones studied inside. The cemetery crew is here. Emily, now 18 and studying education, called from the window. It's not the cemetery group, Rebecca laughed. It's the family group. To me, it's the same thing, Emily said, running downstairs. It was in the cemetery that our family was born. Emily's philosophy, Jason chuckled. She's becoming just like me. I'm not like you. I'm your disciple, Emily replied. Rebecca watched their interaction and noticed how all the children had developed a deep wisdom about relationships and family. Everyone, Michael approached, I have some news to share. What news? I received an offer for us to give talks on family reunification in other countries. Other countries? Canada, Ireland, and Australia. They want to learn about our methodology. Rebecca grew excited. This means our story can help children in other places too. Exactly. What do you all think? Jason was the first to respond. I think it's our responsibility. If we can help more children, we should. But how will we do it? We can't leave the kids here alone. We can take turns, Emily suggested. Some will travel, others stay, and the older kids can help care for the younger ones. It was an idea that made sense. Over the years, they had built a system where everyone supported each other. Then let's do it, Rebecca decided. Let's take our story to the world. Over the next 2 years, Rebecca, Michael, and Jason traveled across North America, sharing their story and teaching their methodology for working with families. In every place they visited, they encountered similar situations. Families torn apart by misunderstandings, abandoned children, people who had given up on love. It's amazing how the problems are the same everywhere, Rebecca remarked during a trip to Australia. And so are the solutions, Michael replied. They always involve love, patience, and the courage to start over. Maybe that's why our story touches people so deeply, Jason added. Because it's universal. Everyone has lost someone important in their life. During a talk in Dublin, a woman in the audience raised her hand. I have a question for Jason. How did a 12-year-old boy find the courage to approach a strange adult in the cemetery? Jason thought for a moment. It wasn't courage. It was necessity. I knew 2 people I loved were suffering for no reason. I couldn't stay silent any longer. But weren't you afraid she wouldn't believe you? I was, but I was more afraid of not trying. The answer moved the audience. And what advice would you give to people who want to reconcile with family but don't know how to start? Another person asked. Rebecca took the lead. Start small. A message, a phone call, a letter. What matters is taking the first step. What if the other person doesn't want to reconcile? Then at least you'll know you tried, Michael answered. And sometimes you have to try more than once. How many times is it worth trying? Jason smiled. As long as there's love, it's worth trying. When they returned to the US, Rebecca, Michael, and Jason were even more convinced their mission was to help families reunite. They founded an international family reunification institute based in New York City with branches in other countries. I never imagined our personal story would become an international movement, Rebecca said during the institute's opening. Neither did I, Michael agreed. But I think that's how good things happen. They start small and grow. Like a family, Jason added. It begins with 2 people who love each other and grows to include everyone who needs love. The opening ceremony was emotional. Hundreds of people whose lives had been touched by their work attended. Among them was the woman who had written the first letter after the book was published. She brought her daughter and grandchildren to meet Rebecca in person. Mrs. Collins, this is my daughter Linda Marie, and these are my grandchildren Jacob and Olivia. Rebecca was moved as she met the family. How are things between you all? Better than ever, the daughter replied. We're making up for 10 lost years. And the boys? They're happy to have their grandmother back in their lives. It was exactly the kind of outcome Rebecca had always wanted to see. During the celebration, Jason took the stage to give a speech. Everyone, 12 years ago, I was a homeless boy with nothing but the hope of one day having a family. The audience listened in silence. Today, at 24, I don't just have a family. I have hundreds of families that have formed or reunited because of the work we do. Applause. But I want to leave you with an important message. You don't need us to rebuild your families. You just need love and courage. More applause. We're here to support, to guide, to set an example. But the work of loving and forgiving, only you can do that. Jason paused. And remember, it's never too late to start over. Aunt Rebecca and Uncle Michael found each other again after 15 years. If they could do it, so can you. The audience stood and applauded for long minutes. After the celebration, Rebecca, Michael, and Jason returned home, where the other children were waiting. "How was the opening?" Emily asked. "It was perfect," Rebecca answered. "And you? How was your day here?" "Quiet. We did our homework, played a little, and made dinner for you." Rebecca looked around the room and saw her family gathered. 15 children of different ages, all happy, all cared for, all loved. "Everyone, do you know you're the pride of my life?" "We know," they answered in unison, laughing. "And do you know our family is special?" "We know," they repeated. "Why are we special?" Jason answered. "Because we show that family isn't just about blood. It's about choice. It's about love. It's about never giving up on each other." Rebecca was moved, as always happened when Jason talked about family. "And do you plan to keep our family together forever?" "Forever," they all answered together. That night, after all the children had fallen asleep, Rebecca, Michael, and Jason gathered on the porch to talk as they had for years. "Guys, do you believe what we've built?" Rebecca asked. "Sometimes it feels like a dream," Michael replied. "For me, it's better than a dream," Jason said, "because it's real, and because other people can build the same thing." "Jason, do you still think about your past? About the time you lived on the streets?" "I do, but not with sadness. I think about it with gratitude." "Gratitude? If I hadn't gone through that, I'd never have learned the value of family, and I'd never have had the determination to help other kids." Rebecca understood that every hard experience they'd gone through had been necessary to bring them where they were. "Michael, do you regret fighting with me 15 years ago?" "I don't regret it anymore, because if we hadn't fought, I'd never have found my calling. And I'd never have learned that professional success without family isn't real success." Jason smiled. "So maybe everything happened exactly the way it was supposed to." "Maybe so." They sat in silence for a few minutes, watching the stars. "Guys, can I make a confession?" Jason said. "Of course." "Sometimes I go back to the cemetery where we met, and I imagine what our lives would have been like if I hadn't had the courage to talk to Aunt Rebecca that day." "And what do you imagine?" "I picture Aunt Rebecca still visiting the empty grave every week, Uncle Michael taking care of just a few kids always worried about money, and me, probably still on the streets or in a bad shelter." Rebecca was moved by the image. "I'm glad you had the courage. I'm glad you gave me the chance. Jason, you know it was you who gave us the chance, right? The chance to be happy." "I think we gave each other the chance," Michael agreed. "That's exactly it. Each of us had something the other needed." "What did I have that you needed?" "You had the truth," Rebecca answered, "and you had the courage to speak it." "And what did you have that I needed?" "We had love to give," Michael replied, "and we needed someone to receive it." Jason smiled. "Then it was perfect. Everyone won." "Everyone won," Rebecca agreed. 15 years after their first meeting at the cemetery, Rebecca was back at the same place. But this time, she wasn't alone. Jason, now married and a father of 2, was with her. "Aunt Rebecca, do you still come here sometimes?" "I do. But now I come to give thanks, not to cry." "Give thanks for what?" "For everything that happened after that day, you tapped me on the shoulder." Jason smiled. "I come here sometimes too, to remember where it all began." "And how do you feel when you're here?" "I feel grateful, and I feel responsible." "Responsible? To keep making a difference in people's lives, like you did in mine." Rebecca looked at Jason's children playing among the cemetery trees. "Do your kids know our story?" "They know the whole story, and whenever they complain about something, I tell them how life can change overnight." "And do they understand?" "Jacob, who's 8, said to me the other day, 'Dad, I'm glad you found our family before I was born. That way I was born into a big family.'" Rebecca got emotional. "He's right. Our family really is big. And it'll keep growing. The kids we raised are starting to have children of their own. And they all stay close, All of them. Last month we had a family gathering, and there were 43 of us. 43 people. That's what happens when love multiplies. Rebecca looked around the cemetery, thinking about how this place meant the end for so many, but had been the beginning for her. Jason, do you think our story will inspire people for a long time? I think so. Because it's a story about something everyone needs, family, and about something everyone can do, start over. Exactly. Our story proves it's never too late to fix what's broken. As they left the cemetery, they passed through the neighborhood where everything had changed. The original house was still there, but now it was part of a larger complex with a school, a health center, and recreational areas. Remember when it was just a little house with 8 kids? Jason asked. I do, and I remember how happy you were when you found out we were getting our own home. I'd never had a home of my own before, and now you have a beautiful one with your family, and you're still my family too. Rebecca smiled. Forever. When they arrived at the current house, they found Michael playing in the yard with his honorary grandchildren, children of the kids they'd raised. The cemetery crew is here, he called out, using the phrase that had become a family tradition. Stop that, Rebecca laughed. They'll think we're morbid. We're not morbid. We're people who turned a place of sadness into a symbol of new beginnings. Jason nodded. Uncle Michael's right. That cemetery will always be special to our family. Why don't we put up a memorial plaque? One of the kids suggested. What kind of plaque? One that tells our story, so other people know something beautiful happened there. Rebecca liked the idea. Let's do it. A small, simple plaque telling how a family was reunited there. Some months later, they placed a small bronze plaque on a tree near the spot where they had first met. The plaque read, "On this spot, March 15th, 2009, a child had the courage to bring a family together. May this plaque remind everyone that it's never too late to start over, and that the right words at the right time can change lives forever." The plaque's unveiling ceremony was simple, just for the extended family. But it was deeply moving. Everyone, Rebecca said, this plaque isn't about us, it's about hope. It's to remind others that miracles happen when we find the courage to act. Jason, now 29 and director of the Family Reunification Institute, gave the final speech. This plaque marks the place where I learned that a child can change the world. They don't have to be a special child, just a brave one. He looked at his own children. And I want my kids to know they can change the world too. Every one of you can be the brave child someone needs. The ceremony ended with everyone holding hands in a circle around the tree where the plaque stood. Thank you, Rebecca said, looking up at the sky. Thank you for bringing me here that day. Thank you for putting Jason in my path. Thank you for giving me a second chance at happiness. As they left the cemetery, Jason took Rebecca's hand. Aunt Rebecca, can I ask you something? Always. Are you happy? Rebecca looked around at her large family walking together, talking, laughing. Jason, I'm more than happy. I'm whole. Even after all the hardships we've faced, especially because of them, they made us stronger and brought us closer. And you wouldn't change anything in our story? Rebecca thought for a long moment. I'd change just one thing. What? I'd have had the courage to look for Michael sooner. We wouldn't have lost 15 years. But if you'd met earlier, maybe I wouldn't have found you. Rebecca stopped walking and looked at Jason. You're right. Maybe everything happened at just the right time for all of us. I'm sure it did. When they got home, as they always did, the whole family gathered for dinner, a tradition they'd kept for 15 years. During the meal, one of the youngest children asked, Uncle Michael, Aunt Rebecca, how did you know you were really siblings? Rebecca smiled. We knew, because we always missed each other, even when we were fighting. And because when we found each other again, it was like no time had passed, Michael added. But you went 15 years without seeing each other. That's true. But the love between siblings never dies. Sometimes it's hidden, but it's always there. Jason joined in. It's like you kids, you're not related by blood, but you're family in your hearts, and that's just as strong. Stronger, the child said. Why stronger? Because you chose us, and we chose you. Rebecca was moved by the child's answer. You know you're the reason for our happiness, right? We know, they all answered together. And you know you're our greatest pride? We know. Then never forget. You're special. And you can make a difference in other people's lives just like you did in ours. After dinner, as always, Rebecca, Michael and Jason gathered on the porch. Everyone, tomorrow marks exactly 15 years since we met at the cemetery, Jason said. 15 years, Rebecca sighed. It feels like yesterday and a lifetime ago at the same time. For me, it was a lifetime, Jason said. The only one that really matters. For all of us, Michael agreed. What do you think we'll be doing 15 years from now? Rebecca asked. God willing, we'll be right here, caring for more children, helping more families, Jason answered. And telling our story to our grandchildren, Michael added. And being grateful every day for the miracle that happened in our lives, Rebecca finished. They fell silent for a few minutes, each lost in their own thoughts. Guys, can I say something? Jason said. Always. I love you more than words can express. We love you too, Rebecca and Michael said together, and you know our family is forever, right? We know. No matter what happens in the future, we'll always be family. Forever, they agreed. That night, Rebecca took a long time to fall asleep. She kept thinking about everything they had built together, about all the lives touched by their story. She remembered the day Jason tapped her shoulder at the cemetery. She remembered the fear she felt when he said Michael was alive. She remembered the emotion of reuniting with her brother, but most of all, she remembered the feeling of finally being whole. Before falling asleep, she looked out the window and saw Jason on the porch, seemingly lost in thought as well. She got up and went to talk to him. Can't sleep? I'm thinking about everything that happened, about how our lives changed. And how do you feel? Grateful. So grateful. Why? Because I had the chance to be part of something bigger than myself, because I could help other people find happiness, because I found a family that truly loves me. Rebecca sat beside him. Jason, you know you're the one who made all this happen, right? It wasn't just me, it was fate. It was courage, and fate only works when it meets brave people. Jason smiled. Then maybe we were brave at just the right time. We definitely were. They sat quietly, watching the stars. Aunt Rebecca, can I make you a promise? Of course. I promise I'll spend the rest of my life helping other families reunite. Like I helped you. That's a beautiful promise, Jason. And you? Can you make me a promise too? What is it? Promise me you'll never stop believing in love, even when things get hard. I promise. Because it was by believing in love that I found you, and it was by believing in love that I found the courage to talk to you that day. Rebecca smiled. Then let's keep believing in love. Forever. End of story. Dear listeners, what an incredible story of reunion and family, isn't it? Now I want to hear from you. What did you think of Jason's courage? Do you believe it's never too late to start over, like Rebecca and Michael did? Share your honest thoughts about this touching story in the comments. If you've made it this far, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other heartwarming stories like this one.